People living along the line of the proposed high-speed 2 railway in Yorkshire have told Look North their lives are in limbo until the route is agreed. The consultation ended at 5 p.m. today, but it'll be the end of the year before a definite route is confirmed. There's also a growing campaign in South Yorkshire to have a station in Sheffield city centre rather than at Meadowhall. Well, the Labour leader Ed Miliband is with us. We'll ask him what he'd do about HS2. First, though, Spencer Stokes has this report.
Where exactly should the high-speed line go and where should the stations be built? The government has proposed a railway from London to Birmingham, Manchester and Yorkshire. But the route isn't definite yet, and for the last year, businesses, councils and homeowners have been making their voices heard. In Woodlesford, it would run along a concrete viaduct, but residents say as things stand, only 6 properties would be entitled to compensation.
I live at this house here, Spencer. And the proposed line is going to run between the canal and the river, and it's on this green strip of land here, and it will be obviously on a viaduct.
John Hall would be able to see the viaducts from his home, so he's trying to sell. But he's had no viewings.
Time's marching on, I want to get on with my life and do other things, but until this issue's resolved, I can't do anything, you know.
HS2 Limited say you have to live within 60 metres of the planned railway to get compensation, and they reiterate the route may change. One way of reducing the visual impact of the new railway would be to bury it, and in the south of England, HS2 has announced it's going to build more tunnels. But tunnels, like city centre railway stations, cost huge amounts of money. And this government, or any future government, doesn't want to see the price tag for HS2 rise any higher. Further north in Church Fenton, residents would like to see HS2 cancelled completely. And one local estate agent says until people know for certain what's happening, the village is in limbo.
People have lost control of their own destiny, if you like. I think it's very hard at this stage to actually put a figure on it, but you could see between 20 and 30% wiped off values.
Councils have also been consulted. Wakefield has voted against HS2, whilst in Sheffield there's a growing campaign for a city centre station on the Wicker rather than an interchange at Meadowhall. 10,000 jobs if it's in the centre of Sheffield versus around 3,500 at Meadowhall. We've got a jobs target of 70,000 jobs in the next decade or so. This would make a huge contribution towards that, so surely it has to be in the centre. But a Sheffield Central station would cost £1 billion more, and the idea isn't popular in Barnsley or Rotherham. The consultation has now closed. HS2's planners have plenty to think about, but it'll be the end of the year before we definitively know the precise route of the new railway. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North.
Well, listening to that was the leader of the Labour Party and Doncaster North MP, Ed Miliband. Mr Miliband, are you in favour of HS2?
We are supporters of HS2, and I'm very sympathetic, nevertheless, to the residents we heard on your film. We've got to make sure that it's value for money. We have been concerned about the costs seeming to rise and go up and up and up over the last few months. The government is supposed to be coming forward with new plans to show how they can get the costs down, and we're awaiting that because I've got a responsibility to make sure that if the Labour government's elected in 2015, we can pay our way in the world, we get our deficit down, and we've got to make sure that HS2 is affordable.
But that doesn't help these residents. You saw them there, they're very angry. They can't sell their homes. For 20 years they're blighted, aren't they? They're stuck. What can you do to help them?
I'm really sympathetic to that, and that's why the government's got to get on with it. They've got to get on with coming forward with their new plans in terms of costs, and then we've got to get a definitive view from them on what that cost is going to be.
But the problem is your Chancellor, Mr Ed Miliband, and neighbouring MP, Alex Shelbrooke, a Conservative MP, has tabled a motion which would have an alternative route. But Mr Balls is quoted in this week's Morley Observer by saying the problem with the Shelbrooke plan, it would substantially increase the cost. Already a hugely over budget, the priority should be finding ways to cut costs. So he wants to reduce costs further.
He's right to try and reduce costs. So look, we were in a difficult financial situation. We've got to take seriously paying down the deficit. We've got to make sure HS2 is affordable, and I think Ed Balls is totally right. And that's what we've been saying to the government. They've got to find a way that these costs are kept under control.